There's another one.
The stuff we had from Dennis a little while ago, and the stuff we had from Blake a little while ago about technique, about how they're using third and fourth level questioning and asking permission and utilizing those iceberg techniques and getting to the pain, the true motivation, all of those things. I can teach you that all day long. I can go through and show you all the iceberg technique and get to the third level questioning and get people emotionally connected. But if you're not willing to do it, the technique isn't worth anything, right? So the second piece of putting the stuff into practical application is not only learning the good technique, the mutual agreements, and the binary rapport techniques, and the questioning skills, and all these things we're talking about, is behavior. And we work quite a bit on behavior. Adam does a lot of behavioral stuff in the foundations part of the program where we're doing live accountability, where we're going through and we're listening, how many calls have you made? How many appointments have you set? How many dials have you done? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because we know if you don't do the right behavior, if you don't put yourself in front of enough people, whether in by the phone or in person, all the technique in the world is not going to do you a bit of good. You have got to have the right behavior. But once again, if you go and do the behavior, but you don't have the right kind of mindset, all the behavior in the world is not going to get you a hill of beans either. You've got to have the right kind of outlook. You have to have the right type of thought process that allows you to be successful even though other people won't with the same information. You put 4 people in the room, give them the exact same leads and the exact same opportunity. 1 or 2 of those people are going to outperform the other 2. Not always because they have the best technique in the world or the best salespeople in the world. It's because they have a belief system that there's people out there right now needing their help. And if you have that belief system, you're going to start looking at leads differently. You see, lead is not the problem. The problem is how we deal with the lead. The problem is how we connect with the lead. The problem is what we do with the lead, whether we have all the information or we don't have all the information. A lead is neither bad nor good. It simply is. It's simply information on a piece of paper or on a computer screen. As an ISA or an agent, for that matter, we cannot be responsible for the accuracy of the information. Once again, we get information. Sometimes information has weird names on it, like Mickey Mouse, or, don't call me again, or hey, go away, or something even more heinous than that. I could list a whole bunch of them, but I try to keep this PG as much as possible, right? We are only responsible for what we do with the information. What kind of world do you live in? Everybody's seen this thing ever since they were, back in high school or, college 101. What are you? Are you, half glass empty or half glass full kind of person? Do you live in a world of scarcity, or do you live in a world of belief of abundance, that there is an opportunity every time that dialer picks up? Or is it going to be, oh no, here's another one. Oh, it says, hey, would you, bite me? I don't want to call them. The phone number couldn't possibly be real. I see example after example after example of somebody who put in a false name, but they put in a real phone number, or they put in a real name, a false email address, but a real phone number. How we handle this information has everything to do with whether we'll be successful or not. You have to begin to start to think about changing your mindset. There's no greater place to control your own destiny than in the world of sales, and I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. When you're in the world of sales, professional salespeople, whether you call yourself an ISA or you call yourself a realtor or you call yourself a real estate agent, whatever you want to call yourself, you are a professional salesperson. If you get paid for selling stuff to people, then you're a professional salesperson, however you want to look at it. And you can create your own destiny. You don't ever have to leave the brokerage you're at. You don't ever have to leave the room you're in right now, looking at your computer, calling people, sending phone calls. You don't ever have to leave. You can make as much money as you would like to in the organization you're in right now, if you think about the opportunities that you have. Many of us carry around negative tapes in our head. A lot of us do not have a lot of positive affirmations that were given to us by our parents. I talk about my grandfather very often. And some of you know people just like my grandfather. My grandfather's passed away now, but when he was alive, there was not a more negative dude in the world than my grandfather. I love my grandfather, but I'll tell you what, I didn't want to hang out and chit chat with him because the dude was not a positive cat. He lived his entire life in a house that was built in the 1800s next to a creek in rural Pennsylvania. That house was heated by a coal stove. When he passed away in 1994, his house was still heated by a pot-bellied coal stove in the living room. And the reason why he lived there was because it would never make any sense for him to ever move, because he could probably never find anything better. And if he did find anything better, the government would probably take it away from him. And they would say he was making too much money, and then they would take his Medicare from him. And, nothing positive ever happened to my grandfather. Ever. Of course, he wouldn't let anything positive happen to him either. He would never do anything to change his circumstance. His house was flooded to within, he would live in a two-story house. It was flooded to within 3 feet of the peak of the roof. The government came in and paid everybody to move, to relocate. Here, we'll move you. Here's the money. He didn't want to take the money. He didn't want to move, didn't want to relocate. Because he figured, well, you know what? The water will find me there too. So he wouldn't move out of the floodplain because, the water would probably just come up to his new place anyway, even though it was on the side of a hill. He had an outlook of negativity. And some of us have people like that in our lives. Some of you people right now on the call, right now, are just like my grandfather. Now, I will give you an out, and it might not be your fault, because we are a product to some respect of the things that we see that are around us. Transactional analysis will tell you that we are somewhat of a product of the things that are around us. Now, we can change that, but you have to learn to rewrite the tapes that are in your head. Right? If the only thing you've ever been taught your entire life is the only thing you can count on in life is death and taxes, and that's been beat into your head for 30 years, and now you show up and you're working for me, you're probably not going to change that outlook overnight. However, you could start down that path. So in order to achieve the success that we seek, we need to learn to reframe negative thoughts. There's a process that we can go through to go from negative to positive. And it starts out with one by identifying the negative thoughts, reframing those negative thoughts, right? And then executing the new positive thoughts. So we have to make a conscious decision that each and every day, each and every lead, regardless of how minute the information is an opportunity. Now, some of us call on expireds and FSBOs, those kinds of things, and you typically have some information about it, even though it's a cold call because you're calling them. It's not completely cold in that they did exercise some thought process about selling their house either in the present or the very near past. So there is something there. There is a reason to call them, as opposed to simply getting a list of phone names and numbers and just calling them to find out if there's an opportunity. In this business, we call that circle prospecting. Where I come from, we just call that cold calling. Calling business owners over and over and over again to find out if they have some pain. If they have some pain, maybe you can help them make their pain go away. Right? So we have to look at each and every time that we pick up the phone as an opportunity, regardless of how much information is there from the lead source. I mentioned earlier about reframing, about recognizing negative thoughts, thinking about corresponding positive thoughts, and then practicing that outcome and envisioning the positive outcome on a regular basis, on a daily basis, repeating the positive outcomes on a daily basis. We're going to look at some of these negative thoughts that maybe some of you harbor as opposed to leads in a moment. We're going to break some of them down, and we're going to take a look at them. Okay? So let's take a look at some of the outlook of negativity or outlook of scarcity. And we use the term scarcity basically saying is, you know what, this isn't any good. There's nothing out there for me. All this stuff is crap. This is a bunch of bogus baloney, right? How come you can have, 10 agents in an office, they all have access to the same information. You got one or two guys that are killing it, and you got 8 of them that aren't. Is it because they're that much better than everybody else? Or maybe it is they have an outlook, a possibility that, you know what, every person I talk to today is an opportunity. Every phone call I make is an opportunity. Every discussion I have is an opportunity. So when we see things like when the person, we call somebody and the person says it's the wrong number. Do you ask for a referral even though it's the wrong number? How many people do that? How many people get the person on the phone? Oh, I'm sorry, you have the wrong number. And then we go on into a referral discussion. How many people have done that or even try to do that? I will. Let's look at the next negative thought. When a person said so-and-so wasn't home, did you ask them when it was a better time to call back? Or did you just go, I don't know what to do now? Right? When a person said that they were not interested, did you ask them if they would ever be interested? Right? So you call somebody and they say, well, we're really not interested in selling our home right now. No problem. Completely understand. I'm just curious. Does that mean that you'll never be interested in the future, or just now or for the next 6, 9, or 12 months you aren't interested, but after that you might be? So do we look at these things that people make, these statements that they make? These aren't even objections. These are just statements. Do we look at them negatively or do we look at them positively? So from a positive standpoint, do we look at it as an opportunity? Do we look at whenever we get a no from somebody, do we see that as simply a barrier to getting the next yes? Because we know we have to talk to X number of people before somebody says yes? Many people are somewhere between 1 in every 16 and 1 in every 20 on a call ratio. Right? That means every time they pick up the phone, every 16 times they get an appointment, or pardon me, every 16 times they talk to somebody, a valid conversation, they get an appointment. Some people are, every 20 times they talk to somebody, they get an appointment. So when I pick the phone up and I call 5 people and I get no, I'm not interested, no, go away, no, don't ever call me again, no, hang up. Do you look at that as I'm having a negative day, or do you look at that as, woohoo, I'm getting one step closer to my next yes because I'm getting rid of all these no's? Okay? Once again, how do you look at things? Do you see as every conversation is a way to get better for the next conversation? Just like the guy said earlier, right? Do we doing something right? Doing something is worth doing it right if you know how to do it, but it's also doing it wrong if you don't know how to do it yet, because there's lesson in everything. Do we look at every interaction as an opportunity to sell or an opportunity to help somebody? Blake told us a great story earlier about how he met with somebody over the phone, talked to them, was patient, asked lots of questions, asked for permission, used the right tonality, and found out some very critical information about this woman who needed a new home, who was scared to death of moving her autistic child out of the home. He has a real opportunity to affect and help this person's life. This person had the same problem before, but the other agent she talked to didn't give a damn enough about her as a human being to take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 minutes and actually find out what the real problem was, because he didn't perceive that there was any money to be made. So do we look at each one of these phone calls as an opportunity to sell, or do we look as an opportunity to possibly help somebody who has a problem? Because I think if you start to look at it as you have an opportunity to affect other people's lives in a positive manner, then it can start to change your outlook about what you have to do on a daily basis. When a prospect says you're just looking and not interested of buying, do you seek a referral from them to somebody else that they may be interested that they could turn you on to? They have any other friends or family that they might be able to have you call? Do you know anybody else in their office? They may have recently overheard a conversation that they would need to get a new agent, or they were going to move. Do we bother, or do we just give up? When a prospect says he's had the wrong number, did you mention to them that you were also seeking listings, and even though you had the wrong number, would they ever be interested in selling a house? Of course not, because we don't think it's possible. We don't think it's possible to get a wrong number and turn it into a sale. Because we thought it was possible, we would ask. But because we don't think it's possible, we don't bother to ask, so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. See, I never got a wrong number and had somebody list their house because I never asked. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, folks. If you have an outlook of negativity, it's not going to translate into business for you. When I see a wrong number, I see it as an opportunity to spread a message about my company. Hey, I'm sorry I got the wrong number. Right? But can I ask you a question? Blah, 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 blah. Let's go to this next one. When you see a lead that says something like Mickey Mouse or go away now, do you see it a pain in the butt and a waste of time? Or do you see it as a fun way to lighten up your day? Hey, let me just call and ask for Mr. Mouse and see what they have to say. Let's go ahead and call and ask for Mr. Go Away and see if they'll laugh with us about it. I hear the ladies in our call center laughing all the time. And they enjoy what they're doing about being around each other and laughing about things that happen on the phone. You can't take yourself too serious. Fair? Do you email Mr. Mouse anyway? Because, you know, sometimes they respond better to email. Do you text people when you can't get their phone number or the phone number is wrong or pardon me, they don't answer the phone or they don't respond to the email? Do you go ahead and text them anyway, even though it's the third thing down the list? You do it anyway, and you figure, well, the first two pieces of information are probably bogus. Why bother trying the third? Because you know what? Sometimes people put the real phone number, even though they put a fake name. Sometimes people put a fake email address, even put the real name. Who knows? They just don't want to deal with salespeople. Somebody open up the mic here. What's one of the things that you see or that you hear about from prospects that get you to not want to follow? What's maybe just maybe one of the examples I've already had? Just give me a little bit of an insight into some of the difficulties that you have with some of the leads that come through your call center. I lulled everybody to sleep. So am I missing the mark here today? Does everybody not have any issues with the leads that come through their call center? They never say to themselves, "Oh, these leads are a bunch of crap. This is a bunch of baloney."
Mark, I have one.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay, well, I don't know if it would apply, but I think it probably does. What we've been doing is really diving into our old leads, like from 2, maybe 3 years ago, and so we found a pattern dialing these leads that the majority of them have already got their homes, you know, they've already purchased a home. And so when we're seeing this, we're thinking, man, you know, every time we call these guys, they've already purchased a home or they're not interested. And it kind of, you know, it kind of gets you down. I did it Saturday. I think I had like 700 or 800 dials in just in the old lead department. And I didn't really get anything out of it. And it was just the same old story over and over again. And so, you know, it kind of, you know, kind of going on the lines of what you were saying, it kind of beats you down a little bit.
It definitely can. It can definitely get you down. And once again, you know, we have to look at what are we responsible for, and are we responsible for the actual information that comes from the lead? Are we responsible for what comes out of calling the lead, or are we simply responsible for just calling them? We're responsible for sifting and going through that information. Now, we may go through a database in our Visa program. I've seen us go through a database, an old database of old information and of 5,000 numbers and get maybe 1 or 2 opportunities out of it, right? But you don't know unless you go through it. You don't know unless you make the call. And there's stuff that's in there, and maybe the first time we went through it, we went with one approach. Next time we go with another approach. So it definitely can get you down. But you have to look at it from the standpoint of, I need to clean up this data. I need to know once and for all whether or not there's an opportunity in there or there's not an opportunity in there, right? When we're going through that data, what are we attempting to do? Are we attempting to simply find a listing, or do we have a secondary and a third, a second level and a third level option that we're trying to find out? when we comb through a lot of those databases in the Visa program, we're not only looking for opportunities, but we're also looking to update the database. We're looking to find out if people are still in the market to sell maybe sometime in the future, whether or not they like to have a home valuation done for their records or a market snapshot. We like to find out whether we can get an updated email on them, whether they like to continue to be kept up on information that's going on in their neighborhood, right? So we usually have a second and a third kind of a fallback. So when we leave there, we may call 1,000 people that day, right, and only talk to 10% of them. Talk to 100 people, and we may only leave with one email every time we talk to 25 people, and maybe one appointment every 2 or 3 days when you're doing that kind of prospecting. But it's still valuable if you're continuing to nurture that stuff forward and go forward and building mind share. So I definitely commend you guys going through that. It is a little bit tough to keep the positive thing going, but keep in mind, I'm responsible for making X number of dials a day, and if I achieve that, then I can go home, look myself in the mirror and say, you know what? I was darn good at what I did today. I don't know what people are going to say. You can't reach your hand through the phone, grab them by the throat, and make them buy a house.
Mark, sometimes one of the things that I find is I run into people who are like, oh, yeah, we decided we're not selling our home anymore. And, I could just say, okay, thanks, and move on. But I've actually found it's kind of fun to engage with these people. And one woman was telling me, just, real brief because I want to move on, but still, feel good about it. And the conversation I had with her was about her falling back in love with her home. And she's just like, yeah, we're going to stay here. And what she said, I just pulled that out and was like, oh, yeah, so now you're going to have an opportunity to fall back in love with this home that you are going to stay in. And she's like, yeah, I'm so excited. And she felt really good getting off the call with me. And in my business, we're not set up to do anything but take listings, but, I got off the phone, I left her, reinforced who we were and left that with her, and who knows where that's going to lead things in the future.
Mm-hmm. Asking also, there's nothing wrong with asking people in the right time, in the right way for, a referral as well. And sometimes that may be simple as, well, it sounds to me like you're very happy and you have a great opportunity to fall back in love with your home. Hey, I'm just curious, before I go, would you happen to know of anybody else, in your, under your influence, whether it be at work or a family member or friend, that think you might be interested in buying or selling a home in the near future? Nothing wrong with asking that question, especially when you have a good rapport.
Yeah, that'd be great. I could add that in.
Yeah. So, with the right rapport with the right person, you can definitely, they may say no. They may say no, they can't think of anybody right now. You never know when somebody says, well, you know what? Matter of fact, my granddaughter, has been talking about, moving back here, to this side of town. And, maybe we'll see her at, Thanksgiving or Christmas and mention, who knows? But once again, I'm not responsible for somebody saying yes to the referral conversation. I'm only responsible for having the conversation. All right. So, good. I appreciate you sharing that as well, Sarah. What about anybody else out there who has either struggled with the prospecting piece or just the data, the validity of the data, and how that kind of makes you feel? Anybody else out there have that same issue? I know it's an issue because I hear it here all the time, and it's how I came up with the topic. I had a conversation like 3 times just this week about people complaining about the data, specifically on Monday. I had an agent challenge me in our training session that we do on Mondays with all our agents about it. Basically challenged me that says the data is a bunch of crap. Meanwhile, he's sitting right next to a person who closed 5 houses in the last month using the exact same data source. But in his mind, it's crap. In her mind, this is the greatest thing that ever happened. She came from an industry where she got no leads whatsoever. Right, so
Mark, I've got something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a slightly different, but sometimes when you fall behind, you don't dial for a few days, you have a long weekend, or, you just kind of fall off the wagon on dialing, and you come back, and then it's the sheer, seeing the sheer number of dials of contacts you haven't talked to, for me can sometimes be really challenging. It's, I look at that and like, rather than looking at like, oh my God, I have this great opportunity to talk to all these people, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind.
Well, that is, if we look at it from an agent perspective for a moment, and we have a number of agents on the call, Eric, is from an ISA. A lot of times we have a specific number that we got to call. We're using a lot of technology, a lot of dialer programs, stuff like that. And we hit dial and it just goes, and we're doing it every single day. From an agent, though, you may not call every single day. And the thing that I don't know if it happens to you, but I know it happens to me and happens to other people I've worked with over the years, is the thing that more than anything else is the frustration, because you're looking at yourself saying, why the hell am I experiencing call reluctance right now? I do this for a living. That's how I make my money. I've made thousands of calls before. How come I feel this way again, even though I didn't do it for 4 days? And that's very frustrating. And that is one reason why I advocate, if you're an agent, even if you work in a place like Select Homes, where we have a fully staffed call center and we're making thousands and thousands of calls a week, right? I suggest and recommend that you find a consistent level of prospecting that you can do each and every work day of every week. I don't care if that your number is 10 a day that you're going to try to call, or if it's 25 or it's 100. It's the consistency that makes the difference over time. I will take somebody who makes 20 attempts a day every day over somebody who tries to make 100 on one day of the week once a week. For many reasons. One, consistency. One is attitude. The other is applying and working on their craft and talking to lots of people, learning the lessons that they need to learn, right, along the way, and being able to digest that and redirect the behavior and change the behavior. I will take that consistent caller than the once a week superstar any day of the week. Because slow and steady wins the race in this business. You do it consistently, you do it over, you continue to get better, and you don't have to deal with stuff like this call reluctance that creeps back up. Because I'll tell you right now, Eric, it happens to me, and I've been doing this for 20 some years. If I don't make calls for a week or a month, I don't feel like doing it. I'm like, man, I don't want to call him. Oh, this sucks. I'm the same way. So it's legitimate. But the best way to keep from doing that and keep from dealing with that is have a consistent behavior each and every day of the days that you work. I mean, feel free to take a couple days off in a row. That's okay. Everybody needs time off.
That makes sense.
When we get these leads, like, Mickey Mouse or whatever, do we look at it, like I said earlier, as a time in the butt, or do we look at it as an opportunity to perhaps lighten our day a little bit? Okay, there we go. When you call, here's another one. When you call a FSBO and they don't schedule it right away, you think that they never will, and you think you failed. Or do you realize that the first week of a FSBO, the first day of a FSBO, or even the first month of a FSBO, there is usually no pain. And that if you come from a place of service, you may still get this listing in the future. We feel like, because we go to the internet and we read stuff on Facebook posts and pages, that you should be able to call a FSBO and talk every single one of those people into becoming your prospect right away, first time you call them, because you're a trained killer. And you took, some, a 2-day class on converting FSBOs. You may be able to get some of them, but there's a lot of them that you're not going to get. And you just have to realize that's part of the process. In our language, a lot of the FSBOs, especially in that first day, the first week, or even the first month, they don't really have any pain yet. They think they can do it on their own. You can have all kind of valid reasons for them not doing it, but they're going to go out and try it on their own anyway. You need to recognize when that happens and realize it's an opportunity down the road, and you haven't failed. When you hear that you're just looking, do you give an eye roll and swear under your breath? Or do you understand that most internet leads have to be incubated anywhere from 6 to 18 months. And with good questioning skills and good follow-up skills, you're going to win the lion's share of those opportunities. Oh my God, another person said just looking. Hey, that's the way it goes. That's why we teach and we work on here having a fallback position, right? We'll talk some more about that. You see, like I said earlier, there's no bad leads. You need to attempt to qualify each and every lead that you get, even if you perceived it's bad. If you get a name, a phone number, an email address, or a text message, it's your responsibility to attempt to contact those, any one of those, regardless of what the information looks like. You don't get a choice just to throw it away because it don't look good. You never know. It's your responsibility to dial the phone, send email or text. It's your responsibility to engage each and every person that we come upon and attempt to have a conversation. It's your responsibility to ask questions to find out the potential prospect's pain. It's your responsibility to treat everybody with dignity and respect. And you need to have a fallback plan if your initial plan doesn't work. For instance, we all had a session a couple weeks ago about poor Ronda Rousey, who got punched in the face. With my favorite quote here, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And if you watch that fight, or if you were on the call that we talked about her a few weeks ago, you realize that she had a plan and it didn't work. She had no fallback plan. And when her first plan didn't work, she just kept trying to do plan A, and she kept getting punched in the face. Eventually, she got kicked in the side of the head, and she got knocked out. So we have to have a fallback plan. When somebody gives us a statement, we should have a response for that statement. If their statement doesn't go we want, we should have a fallback plan about what it is we're trying to achieve. A typical ISA plan sounds a little bit like this. Get a buyer's appointment, right? If plan A fails, plan B is to push harder for plan A, which is to get a buyer's appointment. If plan C fails, right, or pardon me, if plan B fails, then their plan is to push even more harder for plan A. And if plan C fails, then they push even harder for plan A. And then eventually they give up and blame the prospect for being stupid. That's pretty much most ISA's plan. Plan 1, push hard. Plan 2, push hard. Plan C, push hard. Give up, blame the prospect for being stupid. Right? Can anybody relate to that? Did I at least get a laugh or two under your breath when I threw that up there? I hope so. Here at Select Homes, and what we do, and what we're trying to teach you to do, right, is we actually have there's 4 outcomes of every possible opportunity. Adam calls it quad scripting, and basically what he's saying is I have 4 different ways that I could go on any particular call. Even though this is a buyer's lead, there's 4 different ways it could end up. One is I could set a buyer's appointment. 2, I could set a listing appointment because sometimes people have to sell a house before they buy one. 3, I could take a pre-approval attempt because if they're not approved to set a buyer's appointment, we need to get them approved. So I could take a pre-approval attempt over the phone. And step 4 is I could modify this internet search for them. Right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 opportunities on every single call that I have. A buyer's appointment, a listing appointment, a pre-approval attempt, and a modified internet search. And I would also say that we have a 5th opportunity, which is to simply build a relationship for future opportunities. Now, our job as ISAs is to set appointments. I get that. However, you need to make sure you're prepared for all these other inevitabilities. And I hear newest ISAs all the time. I'll call or I'll listen into their calls, and they go and they do exactly that process I outlined at first. Within 30 seconds, they're trying to get an appointment. And then the person says no. And then they say, well, who would be a better person to be able to sell your home, than us? We sell houses more than 93% faster than everybody else in the market. When would be a good day for us to meet? Wednesday at 4, Tuesday at 3. And then they say, well, I'm not really sure about that. And then they try to close again. They have no fallback position. They're not listening to what people say. So you should be prepared for any one of these eventualities when you go into a phone call. Because if you're a buyer's agent or you're only setting listing appointments as an ISA, you're not, and you don't open yourself up to the thought process of abundance or thought process of opportunity, you're not going to ask the questions to recognize whether or not there is a listing opportunity or a pre-approval attempt, or you need to modify this search to live and sell another day. You're not even going to be thinking about that. You're going to be narrowly focused. And when you start to have a narrow focus in sales, you start to lose because you become selfish, which the interaction all becomes about me. I have to set an appointment. That's the only reason why we're both here. As opposed to, what are all the possibilities that could happen on this call? And let's see where it goes. Is that fair? So let's look at some common prospect statements. Notice I'm calling these statements and not objections, right? Because I'm not trying to close anybody. If I call somebody and I say, "Hey, this is Mark, from ksrealestate.com, and I noticed you had recently registered on our website, and I just wanted to call them personally and say thank you," and they say, "Well, we're just looking," that's not an objection. It's just a statement. It's what they were doing. Okay, let's not get the two things mixed up. Objections only come after you try to close. And if you close right, if you set up your information right, you won't get very many objections. So you hear a statement such as, "I'm just looking." You need to have a fallback statement for that. You need to, coming from a outlook of possibility, you have to be able to let them know, "Hey, I understand. A lot of people that come to a website are just looking, but have some interest in homes that they're looking at. In fact, most of the people on our website are anywhere from 6 to 18 months out away from purchasing. I'm just curious. If you could wave a magic wand, when would you like to be in a new home?" And they may say, "Well, we're really not interested in buying a new home at all." No problem. I can still help you, right? It's the outlook of possibility. It's not, "Oh, crap, I did a shitty job. I didn't get an appointment." You know what? Since I've been here, I've looked at probably 50 other websites and probably had about 15 or 16 either agents or ISAs call me. Do you think I was going to schedule an appointment with any of them, no matter how good they thought they were, no matter how hard they tried to close, no matter what fancy closing moves they had? Do you think they were going to get me to schedule an appointment? No. So what I walk away from is, man, that guy was a raging ass. Or, man, that guy really sucked. Or, man, they really need training. Or, you know what? They did a really good job. They treated me with dignity and respect. You know what? I might look them up again someday. I might pass along to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm working with so-and-so. Hey, you know what? I had interaction with their company, and they did a really good job. I think you're in a good place." And give them a nice, pat on the back. You have to have a fallback plan. What about, we hear this one a lot. What do you think of that house? I like it. Wait a minute. Here it is. So I was just looking for my sister. We get this one a lot, right? Well, my sister just sent me a link, and she was looking at some houses, and she sent me this link and wanted to know what I thought of it. Or my girlfriend sent me a link because she drove by this house today, and she wanted me to look at it. So we get that a lot, right? We hear it all the time. So instead of saying, "So it doesn't sound like you're interested in buying a house," instead of saying that, why don't you just stop and say, "So what did you think of the house?" And engage them in conversation and get some more information. And she says, "Well, I liked it." Well, then it says, "So it sounds like your sister is the one who's in the market for a new place. Do you happen to know if she's working with anybody right now?" Do we go and try to get a referral? Do we dig and get more information, which is our responsibility? Or do we just go, "I don't know, because this is the fourth person today who told me my sister was just looking"? Do we give up and get uncomfortable? Or do we stick in there realizing, you know what, I still may have an opportunity here. Let me see what happens. I would suggest you go with the latter. How about this one? You have the wrong number. I don't know if you know this, but people put in fake numbers all the time. Sometimes people put in their actual number, but they never say that they're home or they're the right person because you don't know if you're somebody looking for money. I don't know how many of you on the call who have ever had the unfortunate circumstance of having a bill collector call you, but they don't come out and say, hey, this is Mark Benefiel from ABC Collection Company. They come out and they say, Mark, or they say, is this Betty, right? So you call somebody, they don't recognize your number, you ask them by name, they're going to be skeptical, and a lot of people are going to say you got the wrong phone number, even if it's the right phone number, because they don't really understand who you are yet. So I would say, hey, is this Mary? They say, no, you must have the wrong number. Hey, no problem, I'm sorry to bother you. Do you just hang up, or do you say, well, maybe you can help me? You see, my name is Mark Benefiel, and I'm from Select Homes here in Wichita. And the problem is we have a bunch of customers looking for new homes right now, but we don't have enough homes to sell them. Now, I know I got the wrong number here by accident, but I'm just curious. Have you ever considered selling your home? This is the lead. This is the name, and this is the phone number. Why not ask them the question? They already answered the phone. But if you haven't crafted for yourself a fallback position for people say I got the wrong number, you're simply going to say I'm sorry and hang up and move on. Just turn it into a circle prospecting call. Hey, no problem. I'm sorry I got the wrong number. Maybe you can help me. And then go in with your question. You might be surprised at the answer you get. Once again, it's about having the outlook of possibility as the outlook of negativity, which is, nah, wrong number, I just move on. What if it was the right number? And once you went into who you were and why you were calling, they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. I was on your website. Trust me, it'll happen. She's not home right now. How do we know that the person on the phone is being truthful? In fact, I would say the person on the phone is probably the person you want to talk to, or they're sitting nearby. So I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe you can help me. I'm Mark Benefiel from ksrealestate.com, and I see that she recently registered on our website and was looking at several homes that we listed for sale, and we're calling to simply say thank you. I'm just going to go right into my opening, regardless of whether it's the right phone number or it's the wrong phone number, or if they're home or they're not home, because maybe this cat was sitting there next to her when she was on the website. Maybe it's actually her. And she, oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, I told you I wasn't home. I'm screening my calls. I've been having a crazy boyfriend call me. Blah 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 blah. Right? Once again, it's an outlook of possibility, not an outlook of scarcity here. All right? Don't just give up simply because they said they weren't home, or they said they had the wrong number, et cetera, et cetera. Don't just give up. Having an abundance attitude truly is up to you. It says, I can share an experience where a company lost a sale. I was trying to read what you just wrote there. Can you either undo your mic or write that again for me? Because I couldn't read it fast enough.
Yeah, sorry about that. No problem. I just wanted to share an experience where a company actually called me, and because they didn't overcome my statement, it wasn't even an objection. I was just kind of having fun with it to see how they would, acknowledge my statement. They just basically hung up on me and just lost the opportunity for a sale because I said that they were like the 30th call today. So just because I said, oh yeah, I know what you're calling about, you're the 30th call today, and hung up on me. I was actually want to know more about every time that they called, I wasn't available to speak, but now I was available to speak, and they just hung up. Didn't even try to get the sale.
They didn't have a fallback. They didn't know what to do. And part of that problem is that we way too often are too busy memorizing the script, which says, if they say this, I have to say that. If they say this, I have to say that. As opposed to utilizing and falling back on some of the rules that we have here, right? In this program, in a system that we have, which is to gather more information, right? So you said, you're the 30th person to call me that day. Wow, sounds like you're a really busy person, right? Can I ask you a question? Yeah, sure. Well, my name is Mark Benefield, and I'm with so and so from so and so. I'm going right back into where I want to go. It doesn't matter the circumstance. If I can transition back to the purpose of my call, I'm going to find a way to transition back to the purpose of my call.
Yeah, and I had fun with them, Mark, because I really wanted to know about their pricing.
Yeah.
So I called the number back, and I was explaining the situation. Hey, someone just called me. I mentioned that you were the 30th call today, and then the guy's like, yeah, I know, you were speaking to so and so. We're gonna put you on the do not call list, and he hung up on me again. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I literally had to call back 5 times. I couldn't get a supervisor, and all I was trying to do was get pricing and information. But because they did not take the time to acknowledge my statement or even try to get the sale or ask for the sale, they completely lost that opportunity. And actually, excuse my French, pissed me off because they weren't providing any type of service
Right.
on a sales call. It was just ridiculous.
Well, what you get down to is the difference between somebody who's telemarketing, somebody who's an inside sales professional. Two different things, right? What we're trying to breed here and treat and, and train and grow and nurture are professional inside salespeople that, they look at everything as an opportunity, and they're going to see what they can do. Now, looking at something as an opportunity doesn't mean that you push and push and push and push. It means that you have options and different places to go. And so the difference between that telemarketer who's just dialing numbers and just reading a script, and if it doesn't fit the script, they got to go, as opposed to an inside
Absolutely.
salesperson who gets somebody and says, "What can I make out of this? How can I make, a prize out of this phone number that I have on this piece of paper?" Right. So there's a difference between those two kinds of people, and unfortunately, you came up across a company who had a telemarketer as opposed to an inside sales professional. Right.
Yeah, obviously. So I guess my point is, I agree with you 100% on acknowledging the statement and making that into a positive situation. Just set your mind to believe that, you can still overcome that statement and find out more about their needs.
Right. Having this abundance kind of attitude or mentality, it truly is up to you. I mean, one, you have to walk into it thinking that, what, leads are not good or bad. They're just simply leads. That's why we're not calling them prospects yet. They're not even really leads, man. They're phone numbers, right? They're suspects. There's people out there in the world. Lead is fine, but a lead is what we call it, right? So they just are. What we do with it is up to us. How we treat it, how we nurture it, how we burn through it, and not do anything with it, is completely up to us. You need to create positive thoughts. You need to have a backup plan. And first and last but not least, as Jasmine was just getting to, which I was going to mention, which was you have to have fun. If you're not having fun on these calls with these people, if you're not having fun with the people that are around you, if you don't laugh a half dozen times a day at something ridiculous that a prospect said, or a funny name on a lead, or something weird when somebody hung up on you, or whatever, if you don't laugh and have a good time, then why do you do it? If you don't enjoy your work, I suggest you go find some work that you do enjoy. Now, at any given day, I might have something happen to me and I'm not in the brightest mood whatsoever, but I still genuinely enjoy my work. And I hope that each of you genuinely enjoy your work, that you have fun, you set appointments, you help people change their lives, you identify problems that you can solve, you help people reach their goals, and through all that, you're also reaching your goals. This job as an ISA or if an agent, if you're online, absolutely you have the opportunity to have whatever type of lifestyle that you want to, based on the work that we're doing here and the possibilities that you have within your company. But if you don't look at it in a positive manner, and if you don't look at the leads that you have in a fashion of possibility, you're always going to be looking at the negative. And I'm telling you, I sat in a room just this last week where people are taking the exact same number of leads, the exact same from the same data sources. There's 2 or 3 people in there doing well, including our agent of the month. And there's other people in that same room who sold absolutely zero. Same leads, same opportunity for training, but when you talk to the people, they have a negative outlook. Prospects see it and they feel it, and they don't want to be around it either, right? So we don't want to be fake over the top, but we want to continue to look at these negative thought processes that we have, this negative way that we're looking at these leads and these phone calls that we take, the missing information that we have. We need to take a look at those and say, okay, what is positive here? What is a possibility here? And then go out and have that attitude of abundance where we got people out there who need our help and we can help them. So a couple of points to fill up for today. We have no call night